Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Live TV Ratings Talk. It is 5:30 p.m., 5:31 p.m. Eastern. I'm Brandon Thurston, broadcasting live from Buffalo, New York. That's what this is. This is downtown, and these are the ratings. As another AEW Dynamite number has just come out this afternoon for last night. We've got Raw, its draft episode to talk about. Smackdown, its draft episode to talk about. NXT, AEW Rampage, and Impact ratings. Another 2 episodes. They were slotted as 2 episodes this time for Roads to the Top, Dark Side of the Ring, and even MLW for the first time ever. MLW ratings have been publicly reported by Wrestlenomics earlier today. So, I have some post-it notes to go through. Translucent post-it notes. They're the post-it notes of a ghost as Halloween draws nearer. After I'm done with my post-it notes, you may ask questions in the chat. I might answer them. Be sure to use a question mark, as questions tend to end to signify that they are questions, and I will try to find them and scroll through the chat. So, we'll go through each one of these programs. That's what I've told myself. We've got a new set in studio here. I'm surrounded by imaginary... Oh, see, I just went into the ether there. I'm surrounded by imaginary assets in the OBS studio. There's a ticker. I think this was scrolling last week. But there's a clock here. There's all sorts of stuff. Anyway, the content. Yes. AEW Dynamite was watched by 1,053,000 viewers total, 489,000, about half, as usual, in the demo, for a .37 rating. And that is lower, substantially lower, much lower than Raw's key demo rating of .52, as everyone has been watching closely. The key demo contest between Raw and Dynamite. Dynamite has beaten Raw in the demo on 2 occasions in the same week. On 2 separate occasions. Only 2, though. One on the week before Monday Night Football began, and one on the first week of Monday Night Football when Monday Night Football was airing on both ABC and ESPN. This week, though, if we take a look, as I just go into a freewheeling conversation about what affected what here. MLB wildcard game here between the Cardinals and the Dodgers. St. Louis Cardinals, LA Dodgers, right? I used to watch SportsCenter back in the day. Did a pretty big rating here, a .73. How does that compare to what Monday Night Football is doing? 3.76, and that's not even including the... well, there was no Manning cast this week, right? I think there was no Manning cast. Oh, wait, no, there it is. That would be it, right? Do I have the link on here? I don't, but that's starting at 847, and that is also starting at 847. So if we combine those, we've got a 3.97. You can't see it, but I can way down here. 3.97. That's still, that's about double what this 1.73 is in terms of one program. We'd have to do some math that I don't have on hand right now to look at. I do a calculation of across all of the time, across all of the night, adjusted for time, what had the heavier 18-49 and P2 plus rating. But I'm not confident just by glancing at this, though, that, in fact, what if we just totaled all these things? Because they're shaded, right? And let's take, we'll cut off an arbitrary limit here. We'll say, let's grab the, yeah, but then I have to adjust it for time. It'll give us some idea, though. So let's grab, I don't know, what am I at here? It's still telling me the count. Who had the tougher competition is what I'm doing here. Just get a vague idea at least. Let's grab like the top 15 that overlapped. Make sure we get Tucker in there. 16. Let's do 16. That's a sum of just about 14 demo ratings points. 14. Okay. These all overlapped. I don't think we're selecting this one. That did not overlap, or these two. So 14 is the demo rating that Raw had to go against, roughly. That's not adjusted for time, but this is a rough idea, right? If I look at the count, we're up to 11 here. I want to get 16 for AEW 2. Totally non-scientific estimation here. A 9.5. So Raw probably still going against much tougher competition here, despite a big baseball game that Dynamite had to go against. And perhaps it affected its rating, as one reader tells us that he was flipping back and forth between one subscriber, in fact, not just a reader. He's a subscriber. Told us that he was flipping back and forth between the baseball game and AEW, which did a .37. Compare that to what has Dynamite been doing lately. If we click around into this spreadsheet, the spreadsheet that you can get access to at Wrestlenomics Patreon, patreon.com/Wrestlenomics for just $5 a month. You get my TV ratings reports and all of this data compared to the median of the last 4 weeks. This is way down for Dynamite, down 20% compared to the last 4 weeks. Meanwhile, Raw was up 8%. It was a draft episode. Smackdown was up 4% by that measure. We're looking at the demo. Almost no movement for Smackdown in total viewership, but some decent movement for Raw in total viewership, up 6%. So there's that. If we look at our gauges here, let's look at that on the slide because it probably looks better on the slide and more visible. If we look at all these, 6 programs, it's going to be 7 in-ring wrestling programs this week, though, including MLW, which we'll talk about in a moment. Using my magic formula here to try to get some sort of objective measure that says, okay, compared to the last 4 weeks, that is, compared to what these programs have been doing lately, what was this episode like compared, by that comparison? And all I do is I take these two deltas and I just average them for total viewership and the demo, and what we get is something that I think makes some intuitive sense here. In that, SmackDown was decent on the upper half of the yellow here in the gauge. Raw was almost approaching the green. Pretty good rating for Raw. Dynamite down in the red. Not a good rating for Dynamite. By the way, number 4 overall. It was, and here's maybe one of the key factors here that I should have mentioned earlier is, yes, baseball beat it. We'll get back to this in a moment. Yes, baseball beat it. Okay, all these network programs beat it. Real Housewives, inside the MLB, that was what was just on following, had a great lead-in from the baseball game. But Real Housewives is ahead. If this was, say, a typical Wednesday night. Now, perhaps if this was a typical Wednesday night, there would be more people watching AEW who watched the baseball game, spent some time watching the baseball game instead. That's very plausible. But if you were to just somehow subtract the baseball factor out of here, you still end up with Real Housewives, and it's probably driven by, I would venture to guess, men choosing to watch the baseball game, and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills on Bravo has got a pretty strong female 18 to 49 demographic viewership. 0.59 to, say, Dynamite's 0.22. So there's that comparison. To go back to our gauges, it's like you're driving a car. The ratings car. Anyway, Rampage on the lower end. This was the lowest Rampage of the 8 episodes so far. And NXT, pretty far down. Pretty comparable to Dynamite in terms of its delta here. And Impact, sort of on the lower side of okay. So there's that. Is there more to say about each of these programs if now I've jumped around and said a bunch of stuff? NXT is, if we let's look at a line chart for NXT here. And let's look at NXT by itself. As by the way, NXT, if we just look at this, NXT is now being identified no longer in gold. No longer will it be, as our friends, the Voices of Wrestling, Rich and Joe may say, Yellow Raw. It is now Rainbow Raw. And now I can't put all colors of the rainbow. I wish I could. And I wish it would be, not totally distracting to the eye. I wish I could put all colors of the rainbow on this line here. But unfortunately, we have to settle for one. one color, and there's a good magenta making up a lot of the new NXT logo. So that is to commemorate the arrival, no pun intended, I know that was one of the names of the old takeovers, but to commemorate the introduction of NXT 2.0 and to say goodbye to the former Skull and Crossbones, where is it? That's AEW. To say goodbye to the old Wolfenstein 3D logo. Here it is in black and white. We're going with magenta now to identify NXT. Anyway, NXT is now below on this week where it was in the year prior. Same for last week's episode as well. So we've got an NXT here that's no longer going head-to-head with AEW Dynamite, another wrestling program that had larger viewership than itself. It's on Tuesday night. I don't know how Tuesday compares to Wednesday. I guess I do. I can look it up pretty easily, right? How does Tuesday compare to Wednesday in terms of how tough is the TV competition overall? If we look at, let's make this a little smaller so it all fits on the screen. This is without news. This is with news. Tuesday seems to be very similar to Wednesday. I think this is adjusted for time. It is. This is a 0.2 for Wednesday in the demo among the top 50 daily programs to a 0.22 for Wednesday. Identical when you exclude news. But it's going against everything, including news, right? So, if anything, it's a slightly easier night for competition, generally. Now, despite that, Tuesday, no longer going against AEW. This program is not doing as well as it was last year when it was going against AEW. And we can look at something that people really reacted to when I tweeted it out, is the median viewership note, which is the highest median age that I have. The road to the top has been put in here again for some reason, because I didn't add core content, or I did paste core content in here. These should be cleared out. Okay, stand by. We'll get this fixed here, and watch this as this changes before our eyes. Hopefully, it did. Right? Yes, it did. Okay. So here's the 62. The median age of the people watching live same day. Remember, live same day. It's not DVR. The median age for NXT on Tuesday night was 62 years old. Older than anything going back here to May or so. Perhaps the oldest ever. I don't know. I don't have data going back much further, at all further than this, really. 62 years old. So that means, this is hard to wrap my head around. That means that of the, 600 some odd thousand viewers, right? Because let's look at the exact number. 632,000 viewers. Of all those, more than 500,000, half of them were 62 or older, which it's been not far from that all along here since the spring, in the high 50s, and we could say almost something only slightly younger for Raw and Smackdown, and Dynamite and Rampage in the 40s somewhere. In 50 last night, by the way, for Dynamite, older than usual. So, yeah, I don't know. I went on a long tweet thread about this, and I guess we can experiment with this now, because I have a note telling myself to do it, that I think this is less about, I know people like to joke, and they're probably being facetious that, oh my God, just the old people, the olds, the P50 plus, they love their NXT. And I think it has more to do with just the nature of what are the ages of the people who are still tending to consume their media through linear TV. I think, when I've done the NPS studies in the past, the Net Promoter Score studies in the past, and I've surveyed people's ages of those who responded to the Facebook ad that was asking for a response to this survey, I found that all the TV program, everybody who said they watched a given wrestling program regularly, of those responses, they were all about age 40 in that experiment, in that study. And I've done that study 3 times so far. If I get my Facebook ad account straightened out, I'll do it a 4th time soon. So I think what's happening here is linear TV is for older people. The older you are, probably the more likely it is to be just sort of your default media consumption means. The younger you are, the more it has to do with, this is my hypothesis, we'll do a little bit of messing around with this, but to see if there's any credibility to what I'm saying here. The younger you are, the more linear TV is a measurement of urgency, of like, how important is it, how can't miss is it that I have to see this episode or this show. So I think there's a lot of younger people who are following NXT, who are kind of paying attention to it, but are content, and they spend lots of time on social media, but more time than older people tend to, and they're staying in touch with it that way. And when they hear that something interesting is happening, they'll go check it out. Even when there were reports of turmoil in NXT and it was going to be repackaged into this rainbow thing that it's become. This is one of my preparation notes, is to make sure the hair doesn't go crazy here. Got to glue it on if necessary. I've managed to lose my train of thought now. But let's look at the deltas of the various age groups here, which is one of the things that this magic spreadsheet can do. So what I want to do here is, way down here at the end of the program data tab, I've got some columns here that ask a question similar to what we were asking when it came to those gauges that I was showing a few minutes ago. This asks, how did this given episode do compared to the last 4 weeks in total viewership? That's what P2 Plus means. In terms of the key demo, 18 to 49, and in terms of 18 to 34, the younger half of the key demo, okay, which is as young as we've got data, lots of data for here. So what I want to do is, and I guess before I do that, I want to make the point that what's happening, and we can look at the analysis tab and look at the P50 Plus. It's not as if older people are watching it in greater numbers. It's just that younger people are, because where's our P50 Plus for this P50 Plus rating? It's pretty straight. I mean, if we ran a slope on that, it would probably be practically 0. Is that the right equation, formula? But it's a pretty straight trend, right? In fact, they're all fairly straight. I mean, yeah, Rampage is down as that program settles into whatever its norm is going to be. But Raw, maybe, if anything, growing as fans have returned. So let's see here. What I want to do in program data here is I want to make this big again so everybody can see it. And I want to sort this by greatest to lowest. So basically, we're gonna see in what cases viewership had a big jump versus the previous 4 weeks. And it's a lot of MLW Fusion with it. So let's exclude MLW Fusion for now, and let's only look at the other wrestling programs, which are marked as core content, which might take a minute to filter these out. So I should have ranted first, and then while it was filtering, that would have been ideal. Time management. So what we're looking at here is, what are the biggest spikes, you might call them? What were the biggest jumps versus the median of the last 4 weeks in the history of this spreadsheet, which goes back to September 2014. And we've got this June 30th, which I think is including preemptions. Is this when Dynamite came back from preemption? So you kind of exclude that meaning, even though that does give us a pretty good result relative to what I want to talk about here. But this is the first Dynamite that was after the Wednesday Night War. And this had Mike Tyson on it. And it was up 67% versus the median of the last 4 in total viewership, but it was up even higher with the younger half of the key demo. Is this a post-Royal Rumble episode of Raw? Is this maybe after Ronda Rousey debuted? Does that sound right? I don't know. And it was up 61%, but it was up even higher in 18 to 34, 97%. The Christmas, I don't know if this is a great example, but this is the Christmas Smackdown, which had the lead-in from the NFL. I don't consider that sort of an internal effect. That's something that happened external to the content. The CM Punk, how do I have a median of the last 4? I guess this was versus the previous week because there was only one data point to measure it against. But versus the previous week, this is the CM Punk Rampage debut compared to the prior week. Well, this sort of goes against what I'm trying to say here. Only 51%, even slightly lower than total viewership was up, while the key demo entirely. So that means the back half of the key demo was up even higher. The middle-aged adults were especially excited to see CM Punk. Maybe if you're younger, you don't care as much about CM Punk. Does that sound right? I guess if you're in your early 20s, you might not have been 10 years prior to that. You'd be like a preteen or a teenager when CM Punk was, dropping the pipe bomb. This is probably the second week after the Wednesday Night War. This is the draft episode, the first brand split. We'll do a couple more of these before I'm beating a dead horse or something. But this is the first the big draft episode when they decided to do the brand split again. This is Smackdown, July 19th, 2016, up 50%. In total viewership, up 116% in 18 to 49. This is the Kenny Omega Impact Wrestling first appearance, right? Up 50%. Oh, okay. Up 50% in total. Up only 41% on the young half. Up 141% in the total demo, which means 35 to 49 was up really strongly. So there's that. If we just glance through this and see other instances where this 18 to 34 delta is much higher than the total, there are some. In some cases, this data supports what I'm saying, but not in every case, right? So maybe it's something that really it depends on the content. You have to use your gut a little bit to predict. But anyway, there's that. I think it has a lot to do with media consumption. And yeah, I mean, you've got an NXT 2.0 that is, produced by the victors of the Attitude Era, and maybe they don't have a great idea of what will attract younger audiences. So anyway, let's look at some of the other programs. Let's look at Rampage. One thing I wanted to know about Rampage, this is the lowest Rampage ever of the 8 episodes that it's done so far, which has been a consistent trend. If we look at one of the line graphs here, any one of them will do. It's been slightly down, I think, each and every week for the last 6 weeks in a row or something like that. You can kind of connect the dot from here to here, so that if CM Punk had not come along and debuted on episode 2, this would probably be a completely straight line from episode 1 to where we are now. Where does this program settle? Has it settled now, this past Friday, or will it continue to slowly? It's like a plane landing in an airport or something on a runway. We'll see. One thing I wanted to point out that was remarkable in the quarter hours, if I can find the quarter hours, there they are, was that what usually happens with Rampage, a program that starts at 10 p.m. and ends at 11 p.m., is that usually it's a pretty consistent decline from quarter 1 to quarter 4. That was not the case this week. I did some math and sort of projected what the trend usually is based on the prior 4 weeks, and what you can see that illustrated in this dotted line here for total viewership, and in this green dotted line for the key demo. And this hair versus hair match between Orange Cassidy and Jack Evans, the Lucha de Apuestas match, is a draw. I don't know. I don't know how much that the stipulation is a factor, or how much it's Orange Cassidy, or maybe Jack Evans. Probably more Orange Cassidy though. But this main event did result in the viewership being up rather than down. So there's that. I think that's all that was really interesting about Rampage, and we noted its continual, gradual decline as it settles into whatever its norm is going to be. I thought pretty normal number for Impact. Our gauges say it's sort of on the low side, I think. No, our gauges say it's totally normal. Okay. And we can discuss this too real quick as I bounce back to WWE. Even though Raw did decisively finish ahead of Dynamite, we do see, as we've continued to discuss, and there's been lots of fan chatter about the competition, or is it not competition? Don't compare them, whatever. You can compare the numbers. They have different external factors that they're facing. But Dynamite and Raw have come closer and closer in the key demo on 2 occasions. Dynamite just barely ahead. But it's also Smackdown that Dynamite has gotten closer to in the key demo, not just Raw. Now, Smackdown's got a larger audience, of course, and it's on Fox, which is in every home with a TV. I pick it up with rabbit ears here in Buffalo. So I think it illustrates the narrowing gap in popularity, and in many ways, absolutely, WWE is way, way, way ahead of AEW. But I think it speaks to the narrowing gap and the increasing relevance of AEW over time, which I think is illustrated pretty well here. And you can tell yourself stories, or you can tell anybody you want to stories about why these trends are shaped the way that they are shaped. Clearly, there's this x-axis at the bottom is year and week number, which I know is not. It's nobody knows what dates these really are, but these blank spots are preemptions, where either SmackDown or Dynamite were preempted. But the gap gets closer here. I believe this is December 2020. No, December 2020 would be right here. In fact, this is where the Winter is Coming episode happens, and Dynamite does some pretty good numbers at the end of 2020. And then you can tell yourself a story about how, in the early part of 2020, maybe Dynamite's content wasn't as good, and maybe the demo wasn't performing as strong. I don't know. But a story about why these are going up and then down. But anyway, it's getting pretty close now, and we're going to continue to watch it over time. I guess one more WWE versus AEW note. WWE Raw beating Dynamite in every demo except for men 18 to 34, where Dynamite did 105,000 to 96,000 for Raw. That also measures out in Showbuzz's, in my conversion of Showbuzz's M12 to 34 rating. That doesn't mean that male teenagers watched Dynamite more than Raw, just because they're all bundled together here. So if 18 to 34, if men 18 to 34 is a winner for AEW, then it's probably going to be the case for 12 to 34 as well, just because the younger you get, the smaller the audience is in any typical situation. Finally, roads to the top. Apparently, I've got a formula here that is just averaging the 2 episodes together. This was published in 2 episodes. It was literally 2 episodes with 2 different titles. I didn't even realize that until the ratings were reported. So I guess Roads to the Top, except for that debut episode, is just a 30-minute episode series. I don't know. We'll see. But this is the average of the 2 episodes together. 369 viewers, which is what we should do if we're going to do a comparison. 204 in the demo, is that correct? I guess it is. let's go back and sort this in chronological order, and we'll look at the rows themselves. Boom. Let's go 200% here. Oh, we're gonna have to clear the filter out here, which shouldn't take too long here. Okay, good. So I'm gonna have to sort this again into chronological order. And if we look at what the roads to the top did, is that is correct for an average 369,000 total and 205,000 in the demo. What is that for an average demo rating? That is 0.16, which is higher than NXT, and that is substantially lower than Rampage. So what we want to do is compare this to the prior week, where it did a 0.17, pretty similar. It ranked 15 and 36 to the 16 rank it did in the prior week. The total viewership, again, was 369 to 422. The first hour did better than, the first half hour did better than the full hour of last week, which doesn't tell you much. It tells you the real story is that it was down a little bit in a sort of a like-to-like comparison across the entire hour. So there's that. I think what's interesting and maybe concerning is that if we look at the male-female split, at least within the demo, which is all the data that we've got to look at, we don't have the whole audience to look at. But so Dynamite's male-to-female split within the demo was 70-30. 70-30. And Roads to the Top was almost exactly the same. 69-61, and I think this is 67.5, which could round up to 68-32. So not exactly drawing in additional large audiences of women, at least yet. But we're getting into some microanalysis there. But you could look at it and say, well, that's, you look at SmackDown's audience on the first, 54 to 46% women in the demo. That is the most recent episode of Smackdown. Yes, it is. Okay. And was that exceptional? No, not really. Well, that was a little bit high. 40% the week before that for SmackDown, 39%, 40%. I'm just going back in weeks here, and 44%. So SmackDown has a larger percentage of women watching in the demo than either these half hours of Roads to the Top. So that's something to watch to see. That does. I don't have. I guess we could go back and look. I don't think I have it here right now, but Showbuzz would have it. Go back and look at Ms. and Mrs. for one thing, and go back and look at Total Divas and Total Bellas to see what was the male-female split. One would think Ms. and Mrs. might be the more apt thing to look at because it had the lead-in from Raw. I guess I do. Do I dare take a quick look at this, and then we'll look at MLW finally. If I look at Ms. and Mrs., which might take a second to sort, and I think I do have sort of a full data set for the relevant some of the Ms. and Mrs. episodes. We'll find out as it sorts. And it thinks about it, because there's 22,993 data points for going through here. All that wait for nothing. Sorry, I don't have it. But I'll try to remember to look at that because the data is on Showbuzz. So, all right, let's talk about, finally, MLW. For all this time, MLW has been airing on beIN Sports. Is it beIN Sport? beIN Sports? I don't know. Does you got to be British for it to be sport? I'm not sure. Anyway, there's beIN Sport, and then there's beIN Sport Espanol, obviously in Spanish. MLW has been airing on beIN Sport all this time, since 2018. We have no idea what the viewership is. We know that beIN Sport is a pretty small network in now about 10 million homes, down from about 16 million homes that it was in 2019. Compare that to the 80 million homes that USA Network is in, and TNT is in, and TBS is in. Compare that to the in excess of 100 million homes that Fox is in. there will be Fightland tonight at 10 o'clock on Vice, following Dark Side of the Ring. Dark Side of the Ring doing two of its lowest ratings ever, most recently for the FMW episode and for the Plane Ride to Hell. Before that, we've got the thing on here. Frontier Martial Arts and the Chris Canyon episode did over 200,000. Plane Ride from Hell did 153. FMW episode did 126,000. So that will be the lead-in for MLW Fightland, a 1-hour special. We've never had viewership data on it until now. Averaging in the most recently completed quarter, Q3 2021, of 2,300. So pretty small. I got this data down to the unit, and I had to figure out what that meant. It means basically by the viewer. And so I've added this in the granularity of the hundreds here, just to see if we can tell any trends. And we do see it declining from 2020 to 2021. And during this time from Q4 2018 to Q1, just before the pandemic, 2020, it was on the Spanish language network also, where it got as high as an average of 16,900 in Q1 2020. Then the pandemic hit, and probably at the same time, Be in Sport has lost some of its coverage. Again, it's down from 16 million homes around this time to about 10 million homes as of August of this year. This is total viewership on the left. This is key demo on the right. They kind of visually correlate. There's this hole in the middle, in the lower middle here in Q2 2020 and Q3 2020. When we're looking at programs with viewership that's under 10,000 in most cases here, and certainly under 20,000, the most viewed episodes are 27,000 in total on January 25th, 2020. So everything is under 30,000 here. In the key demo, the highest is about 14,000 on October 5th, 2019. So it's like any Nielsen number, we're using a sample, a small percentage of the total audience to extrapolate and estimate what the entire nation was doing in terms of viewing. So when we've got small audiences, the sample becomes less reliable. And as we just flip back and forth between these two, maybe there's some correlation. In fact, if I wonder if I can just open the Excel file right now and run a regression, a linear regression on it. I try to keep these pretty fast-paced, but I might be able to do this with some quickness. I guess I don't have it on me here right now. We could maybe do it in the spreadsheet itself. So if I break these back down into, if I ungroup these pivot items, and yeah, this should be pretty easy. If we just run a formula over these, let's just look at the Be in Sport column and not worry about the Spanish language column, because it's not on every episode. There isn't a Spanish broadcast as well. So let's do a corral here. So basically, if it's a result that we're looking for here, the question we're asking here is: does total viewership, is it predictable? Does it correlate negatively or positively to the key demo viewership? Not a mathematician, not a math teacher. I hope I'm explaining that right, but I think that's the question we're asking when we do a Corel formula, which is a very complicated formula that I learned a long time ago in statistics class, my social statistics class that I barely passed. True story. So we're just doing this. So basically, if it's a negative one, it's a perfect negative relationship. If it's a positive one, it's a perfect positive relationship. And what we have here is it's a medium relationship, right? You would expect that relationship to be pretty strong. And I bet if I ran this, we're not going to do this right now, but I bet if I ran this on Raw, Smackdown, NXT, AEW, maybe even Rampage, we would get a much stronger relationship, especially over a broad period of time. So I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that as we flip back and forth and just visually look at these two line graphs and these scatter of dots that represent each data point of viewership for the key demo in green and for total viewership in blue, it's kind of on the unpredictable side, more so than you would expect. Because I think we don't have real numbers here. We're looking at a small sample of a small audience, small population. So anyway, there's that. We'll see what Fightland does tonight on Vice. Vice is in about 70 million homes, so not every cable home, but most of them. Probably going to be MLW's biggest TV audience ever. I will have viewership. I expect to have viewership, a viewership report, ratings report for that on tomorrow, Friday afternoon, along with whatever Dark Side did and whatever Impact did. I know people are discussing. I know Lavi Morgan has a poll out there asking people what they think will have the higher viewership. Will it be MLW or will it be Impact? Impact is disadvantaged by being in only about 40 million homes on access, so about half of the cable homes. Again, Vice in nearly all the cable homes, maybe 90% of the cable homes, maybe 80%, something like that. I'm not sure. I think Impact will do higher because the Dark Side of the Ring lead-in will help, but it's not huge, and it's not as big as it once was. And it's later. This is a 10 o'clock start for Fightland. So even if this is the episode is Johnny K9 tonight on Dark Side, so is Johnny K9 going to do a better rating than FMW? Is it going to do as well as Chris Kanyon? I would guess it's going to do something similar to FMW, something in that range, maybe not as well as Chris Kanyon. Although we have Plane Ride to Hell, that's a Plane Ride from Hell. That's a WE story. But maybe it does something in the, maybe it does roughly 150,000 viewers, let's say. You get later into the night, it probably ends up being lower than that. But we'll see. I mean, is there an urgency effect that results in more younger viewers watching? We'll see. And we'll be able to look at this across demos, too. I know with Showbuzz will report the total viewership and the key demo rating. I should have some more demos that we can look at. So if, let's say, Dark Side did relatively low in 18 to 34, and then that picked up for Fusion following it, we'll see that. So we'll see. We'll see what the results are on Friday afternoon. I'm betting that, I would guess that if I had to, that Impact Wrestling will do higher viewership. Again, Impact's doing over 100,000 often, just about every week, which isn't huge, obviously, but perhaps higher than a 10 o'clock program will be able to achieve, as we've seen the difference. And we've kind of studied the difference that happens when you're Rampage and you have to air at 10 o'clock as opposed to 8 o'clock. So there's that. Have I talked about everything I need to talk about? I don't know where my Post-it notes went. I threw them somewhere at some point. I don't know where they are. But now 45 minutes have gone by, and I will try to answer some questions, if there are questions. Perhaps I've already answered some of them. 31, not bad. I was a little worried. I was worried about my ratings earlier. But anyway, why does WWE rely on gimmick-related events to sustain ratings? Let's see. Because that's the only card they have to play that's effective. Ideally, I think there are... I've said this before many times. I think there are three core issues that are driving WWE's vulnerability and its decrease in popularity over the last several years. The root cause of these issues is Vince McMahon, and because he's the head of creative. And there's three factors that I've taught myself the mnemonic code. It's LIM. Inability to plan and execute long-term storylines. That's number one. Number two, a general inauthenticity in the product, and M for the misevaluation of talent. So the gimmicks are the only thing that really work. The sort of healthy kind of growth of interest and popularity, they find a lot of trouble achieving. So let's see here. I'm looking for question marks. I'm seeing discussion. Aditya asks, hey Brandon, I saw your Google Trends data about searches and how AEW came close to WWE in September in searches, but when I added October, AEW had taken a huge fall. Do you think September bump was because of Punk and Bryan? I think the October search volume will probably be lower. If we can look at the data that our friend here is talking about, I just want to put an image on the screen if I can. Let's look at this worldwide, because that's probably what will be the fairest thing to look at. Okay. So we're looking at, hopefully people can see this. Yes, they can. So what we're looking at here is you can see the purple line is representing WWE, the gray line is representing AEW, and these are, WWE is well above AEW by almost 4 times still, but this margin is slowly getting closer. Still a great margin of distance between them. August and September are the 2 data points that are getting closer, and they're almost even in terms of their index here. And certainly it's largely driven, in my opinion. I mean, I don't have data to support this, but it seems pretty obvious that this is driven by the debuts of CM Punk in August and the debuts of Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole and perhaps others in September. I would imagine maybe it'll be down in October. But the big macro trend, I think, it's really interesting to watch. And I wish I had a longer timeline that I could pull up quickly. But I think you would see that if we did a moving average, we would see these lines getting a little bit closer together over time. But I do expect it to be back down in October, and probably a larger margin for WWE, I guess is the point there. I know it's a different country, but have you heard any more about BT Sports getting sold in the UK? I heard that DAZN is looking at acquiring BT Sports, and I don't know if that's happening or not. I haven't heard anything more, but that's relevant because BT Sport is the broadcaster of Raw and Smackdown in the UK. Do you know where AEW ranks in TNT list of shows and total viewers and the key demo? We can maybe sort that out. Okay, maybe we can sort through that. In the last week, we could possibly look at that. This will not include anything that's not an original first run program. So let's go by demo, because that's what this original data set is Showbuzz Daily's listing of the top 150. And if we actually exclude everything except for Turner Network Television, really. So the only 4 programs but we're missing the 2 roads to the top, right? There should be at least 2 roads to the top here. This seems to be telling me that the only programs in the last 7 days that have ranked in the daily top 150 are AEW and Roads to the Top, but I'm not sure why there's no. Is it the issue that let's look? Does it not say Turner Network Television for Roads to the Top? Is there only one Roads to the Top? Not sure what's happening there. So I can't give you a definite answer, but there's that. I guess because we're not in NBA season, there's not a ton of TNT in here. Certainly, if the NBA season was still on, then we would see that. I'm sure we'll see when the NHL season starts up again. I'm sure that will make the list easily. Certainly well into the top 50 programs. So I guess that's all for now. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. I'm trying to keep these around 45 minutes, but we've gone 50 minutes today. I think I've said everything I need to say. Oh, except for I got the email alert just a little while ago. Just about a half an hour before we went live here. WWE will report its third quarter 2021 results on Thursday, November 4th, 2021. It's always a Thursday. And in the Nick Khan / Christina Salen era, and even in the Frank Riddick era, in fact, it has been a 5 p.m. Conference call, and will be a 5 p.m. conference call on Thursday, November 4th, the third quarter of WWE, which will cover the period. Does it say here? But I know it does. It covers the period of July 1st to September 30th, and that will include the return to touring. We had WrestleMania. We had the WrestleMania quarter already. That was Q2. That was April, of course. But this will be not a full quarter of touring, but almost a full quarter. About 2.5 months out of 3. The WWE Q3 results, we will be covering that thoroughly. I will, as always, be live tweeting it as it happens. I will write an estimate on my what I predict and estimate that they will report for revenue and for EPS, net income, profit, etc. I'll do that before November 4th. The clock starts now. And we'll probably do a live stream of some sort, probably for patrons, on that Thursday evening. So that's all. I appreciate everybody watching on YouTube. We're getting closer and closer to monetization eligibility. And I'm almost there. Perhaps by the time people get done watching this video, we'll be there. This is a live TV ratings talk that happens every Thursday, if this is the first time you're tuning in, every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on this YouTube channel. So hit the like and subscribe. You can also listen to our podcast that comes out, I think every Sunday it's been coming out, if not Sunday, by Monday. By every Monday morning, Wrestlenomics Radio is in your podcast app, and you can subscribe and get my live TV ratings reports and get access to this big data, the big data spreadsheet, the Wrestlenomics viewership spreadsheet, and plus other content. Get audio of this live stream if you prefer it in audio at patreon.com/Wrestlenomics for just $5 a month. And you can follow me on Twitter at Brandon Thurston and at Wrestlenomics. I'm Brandon Thurston. I'll talk to you next time.